Hello, everybody. It's Christina Fasonic broadcasting live from Wheeling, West Virginia for this day's episode of WCONA Live. And I'm going to turn the floor over to my co-host, Damian Dressick. I think he has a few words where he wants to talk about our writer that's just about ready to come up. Hey, Damian.
Hey, Christina. How are you tonight?
How are you? I am good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I am very excited about tonight's reader. We have Donna Dzurilla. And I first came upon Donna's work just a few months ago. And she writes about a Northern Appalachia that, for me, is as familiar as breakfast. It's very much set in the mill culture in the 1980s. She's got folks who are working in the mills, people who deal with the realities of the mills closing down and the unemployment lines. And I love her take on it. It just feels very immersive. So I'm super excited to have her. She is, I think you've got her bio there?
Yes, I do, actually.
Carlow.
Yeah, I have to say, before we're waiting for Donna to come on, she's having a little trouble with her technology, but now is a good time to talk her up when she's not here. I met Donna too last year at our WCONA conference, and she says, and I agree with her, that it was like we found long lost sisters in each other. She's hilarious. She's so intelligent, and you can tell that she's quite insightful. Let me just give you, and this is incredible, her bio. So she graduated with a BA in professional writing, but with minors in art, philosophy, and English lit. And she received the Excellence in Professional Writing Award from Carlow University. So Donna is doing it all. She is also, in addition to being a writer, she's a sculptor, and her sculptures have appeared at the Pittsburgh Glass Center, BoxHeart, Panza galleries, Pittsburgh Technology Council shows, and have been featured in Urbanic 2, Catalyzing a Regional Economic Renaissance at the Pittsburgh International Airport. She was commissioned to create a public art piece for the 2010 Three Rivers Arts Fest, which is so cool, by the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. Her monologues are a mainstay at Carlow University's theater's Practice Monologamy series and have been performed at Yinz Like Plays, 10-minute play festival. And also one of her plays, Scrap, was performed in 2017 at the Henry Heymann Theatre at the University of Pittsburgh. So that's just the tip of the iceberg that is Donna. Her creative nonfiction pieces have appeared in the Post-Gazette. She's working towards her MFA in Carlow University's creative writing program with a concentration in fiction. Her short stories have been published in the Voices from the Attic anthology series, Rune, The Penny, and other places. And right now, believe it or not, with all of that going on, she is working on a novel that is set during the demise of the steel industry. So I don't know. When I met Donna, I instantly loved her, but now I am a little intimidated by her. So what can you add to that, Damian?
Well, I've had a chance to read some of her novel, and I really liked it. It was really enjoyable stuff. Again, it feels, it's so strange how much like people have these connections. Like when we had Lori on, and that kind of people you might not, unless you knew them pretty well, you might not anticipate are so deeply connected to the region's industrial roots. And how the degree to which that shapes so many of us, that at first blush you might not anticipate it. What I didn't know about Donna in any meaningful way was all her experience with the visual arts. I was looking at this. A buddy of mine wrote this piece. He did as part of his graduate work, this sort of exhaustive study on what commonalities really innovative writers have. And one of the things that always struck me as really like, oh wow, that's pretty neat. Was this this long-term and large-scale interest in the visual arts. And I was noticing people I know. I studied with some folks who had pieces in the MFA. I have friends who have some pieces in MoMA that happen to also be writers and more writers than sculptors or painters. But just the fact that Donna is doing that does not surprise me at all. But it's like, oh, more confirmation for this hypothesis that this buddy of mine put out in this article.
Yeah, well, and I'll just speak for both you and I. I believe you said in a meeting we were in the other day that you can draw stick figures.
Badly.
I say that about myself, and I usually tell people that my forte are stick figures with top hats. That's all I can do. So when I meet someone like Donna, who is so multi-talented, like Bonnie Proudfoot is the same way, and other people we've had on our show, I get really excited. So I see Donna is waiting in the wings. Let's bring her on.
Very cool.
Keep our audience waiting no longer. Hey,
Hi
Donna.
there. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Good. If my dogs will be quiet.
Well, you know what? We've had a barrage of different sounds in the background of our show before. We've had lawnmowers, children screaming, dogs barking. So it's life in the time of COVID-19, right?
Right. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah, definitely. So why don't we turn the floor over to you? Are you ready?
I am.
All right. I can't wait to hear. We'll be back soon.
Alrighty. Thanks. I'm going to be reading. It's a piece of flash fiction that I wrote that it isn't part of my novel. It is set in the steel mills. I love steel and the city of Pittsburgh, and I've always been kind of intrigued with what happened in the late 80s. Myself, I had to move out of Pittsburgh to Georgia for work, so I kind of missed like maybe 4 or 5 years there, and have since done a lot of research. But this piece of flash fiction, it's called Trajectory, and for those who don't know, flash fiction is usually 1,000 words or less, and so this will be pretty quick. So again, it's Trajectory. My buddy Red was up in the second-story locker room at the other end of the pipe shop when it happened. He and I went way back. We played ball together and got in at the mill right out of high school. He was on the janitor's job that week and still hoping they'd put him back on laboring soon. It paid more, and he was way behind on his child support. Janitors didn't get overtime. I was up in my crane as usual. I liked being in the crane. There was never any bosses this high up. I kept telling Red to get certified to run the crane because it'd make a lot more money, but he didn't want to run any heavy equipment. I wish I could have talked him into it. I should have been paying closer attention to what I was doing that night, but when all you do an entire shift is move a crane back and forth across the length of a shop, it's only natural to get a little sloppy. Imagine the sound of a wrecking ball hitting concrete. That's what the 10-foot section of 42-inch diameter pipe sounded like when it crashed into the pipe floor. I remember thinking I'd be facing some serious time off. The sling chain around the pipe broke, and the length of pipe tilted, and it just slid right off. It bounced twice off the shop's concrete floor before settling. There was nobody below it, but it wasn't the pipe that fell that worried me. I knew where that was. The crane's 300-pound shank hook tried to stabilize the free end of the broken sling chain, but the chain gyrated and twisted as gravity and momentum tried to argue it off the hook. The wire cable bounced and jerked the hook and chain, then took it on a reverse arc. I watched it reach its peak, just missing the window of my crane. I looked across the shop and watched the hook head towards the locker room and offices on the far wall. Suddenly, Red appeared in the upper locker room doorway, setting one foot out on the top stair, and then he stopped. He must have heard the noise. There was no not hearing it. He turned back to talk to someone standing just inside the door. It all happened way too fast. My walkie was too far away to grab. It laid on the floor between my piss bottle and the half-full bottle of Jack that slid out from under my seat. There was no way to warn him. I hadn't even bothered to turn on the walkie that night. The superintendent's bulky frame filled the locker room doorway, and I know that super could have grabbed Red, but instead he jerked back into the safety of darkness, alone. He saw what was coming. The hook's return swing cleared Red's right arm by barely a foot, while the chain, still trying to break free, twisted out and away from him. I imagined that I heard the murmurs of relief from the group of guys below me. Could have been that Red felt the rush of air from the hook passing by his arm. Maybe he saw a look of fear or surprise on the super's face. Maybe he heard the links of the chain rasp together. He could have seen the hook's fluorescent orange paint reflected in the super's eyes. Something made him turn around towards me. The hook grabbed him from behind to join in the trajectory. I watched the smaller arc of his yellow hard hat as it matched the speed of the hook and descended, then skipped and skidded across the shop floor, landing at the feet of the workers gathered below me. Thank you.
I am so glad we had you on. That was a wonderful piece of fiction.
Thank you.
It was lovely.
Thank you. It's kind of a downer, but
that was just, my father was actually, I'd read this before. My father was actually injured in an accident. He'd worked on the crane as an operator for a long time.
Oh.
He was working on the labor gang, and something very, very similar happened. And he ended up spending 6 months with some broken foot. Luckily, it didn't go worse than that. But that was just such a powerful evocation of just thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. My husband's a steel worker, so a lot of the stories that he tells, and his dad was a steel worker, and both my grandfathers worked in the mills. But there's different things he'll tell me that kind of happen, and it just kind of feeds my imagination. And I have to also give a shout out to Jan Beatty. She has a story, and I didn't realize this until I read it the other day. She has a poem, and it's called The Punch. And if you have a chance, look it up. And it's about a foreman and a worker getting into it. So, but it kind of
I know that piece. I know that piece.
Okay, isn't that a great piece?
It is.
I love it. I love it. So, but thank you so much. That was fun.
I feel so. It's so exciting.
I absolutely loved it.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, Damien. I wanted to get a word in edgewise because I absolutely love this piece because, my dad worked in the mills too, and I could see all of it. Every single sway movement, I could hear it when it fell to the ground. I mean, I always tell people, and you and I both love Carrie Furness and love that tour of the mill, but the thing it's missing that they'll never be able to duplicate is the sound of a mill and how loud and incredibly overwhelming it is, along with, of course, the heat and the change of temperatures from the inside to the out. But I really felt like I was there, and I was really overcome and fearful for what I knew was about to happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
awesome work.
Thank you. I was actually thinking of one of the buildings at Cary that was in the back of my mind as far as feeding the description and all that. So, but thank you. We have lots of steel stories here in the region. So,
yes.
So,
Damien, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You want to jump back in there?
Oh no. Okay. I was afraid you were frozen.
Oh.
There was a moment where I was like, "Oh wait, your feet is frozen." I'm like, "So I better talk."
Oh. No, I'm glad you did. You always have such awesome things to say. Where I'm over here, I'm always, when I hear somebody read and I love it, I fangirl about it. It made me feel this, and and Damien's over there, well, the structure of your fiction. And he's so sophisticated about it. I love that. Whereas I'm over here going, more, I want to read more. So, anyways, thank you so much, Donna. And thank you, Damien, always for your great critiques and thoughts about our writers when they come on.
Well, I'm really happy. I felt like sometimes we bring people on that oh, they've got 8 books and they're a well-known entity. I'm really happy to have them, but it feels really special to be bringing somebody who's doing like new work and just sort of helping them helping people connect with their writing. I feel like we did a good thing tonight.
Yes, you
Definitely.
did. Thank you so much. I really appreciated it. So
thank you.
Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoy your evening, and everybody out there listening, we will be taking a break for Memorial Day on Monday, and but we'll be back on Thursday, which I think is maybe the 31st. Is it? No. It's Thursday the 28th. Is that right?
I believe so. We've got
Awesome.
killer people in June.
Yes, and we're almost totally booked for June. We have like one little spot left, so we're really excited about June. I think that we've been incredibly fortunate to have such wonderful
Absolutely.
writers want to come on and read for everybody who's still stuck at home through all of this. So, thank you.
All right, have a great night.
yeah,
Night.
thank you all.
The dog peed.